Hey guys, welcome to day 4 of the regulation reset. Today we're going to be talking about monitoring our self narrative. The last couple of days we focused on some somatic practices to try to get our bodies starting to go more into a feeling of safety. But today we're going to talk about how we speak to ourselves. And this is something that, to be honest, when I started my own healing experience, I didn't really place too much emphasis on how important my self narrative was. And once I started going through this process, I realized actually how drastically significant it is in starting to feel better about yourself and your life. I actually thought I had a lot of self love when we started this journey. And I realized when going through it, I would project that externally to the world, but internally, I was being a super duper mean girl to myself constantly. I would drop something and be like, "Oh, you stupid fucking idiot," and like, why am I an idiot because I dropped something? But one thing I learned that made me place more value on this significantly was your brain doesn't actually know the difference between fact and fiction. Okay, so all it believes to be true is what you say to it on repeat. So if you're saying really mean things about yourself on repeat to your brain, it believes that that's the truth. Regardless of if there's all kinds of evidence to counter that in the world. If you're saying it over and over again, it believes it to be true. So if you're saying great things about yourself, it will also believe that to be true. So one of the things that I think it's really important to do, and April and I both started with this when we started monitoring our self narrative and trying to change it, was actually just monitoring that self narrative. So today's exercise is going to be starting to pay attention to how you speak to yourself, specifically when you're saying negative things to yourself, either in your head or about yourself. When is this happening? What are the feelings that you're having associated with, this situation? Is it you're feeling really stressed and insecure? Are you trying to make someone else feel better and be self-deprecating about something? Are you dropping something on the floor and calling yourself a stupid idiot? Right? When is it happening? Is it happening all the time? Just starting to monitor when you're talking to yourself like this and noticing, the triggers around it, the feelings that you have around it. That's the first step. If you want to take it to the next level, one of the things that I tried to do when I started this was when I was speaking negatively to myself or about myself, I would stop myself and I would try to speak to myself the way that I would speak to my most cherished loved one. So for me, that's my son. So I'd literally speak to myself in my head or out loud or about myself to others the way that I would talk about my son. And it changed. I mean, what I was saying, the words I was using, the tone I was using, everything was so drastically different. And it made me feel so much better about myself really quickly. Now I realize how important this is. Again, going back to the neurology of it, your brain believes what you tell it. So if you're telling it a bunch of negative stuff about yourself over and over again, then it believes that to be true. And then it makes it easy to justify acting like that. So if you're like, well, I could never do this, I could never start my own business, I'm not smart enough, I'm not talented enough, then yeah, your brain's going to be like, you're right, you definitely can't. So it starts with really monitoring how you're speaking to yourself. So, like I said, today's worksheet will give you some instructions on that. And I wish you luck, and hopefully, you're a little kinder to yourself than I was.